You know, it's kind of ironic, right? Our planet is covered in water, but we can't drink most of it. For decades, the dream has been simple. Use the sun's free, limitless power to turn salty ocean water into fresh, clean drinking water. It sounds so straightforward, but one tiny, stubborn problem has held the whole idea back. So today, we're going to dig into a huge breakthrough that found the solution not by inventing some new material, but by looking back at the ocean itself. All right, let's get into it.
So here's the big question at the heart of it all. How can we take the most abundant liquid on Earth, seawater, and use our most abundant energy source, the sun, to fix our water problems? And the basic idea? It's literally as old as the Earth itself.
It's a process called solar distillation, and it's basically a tiny man-made water cycle. You use the sun's heat to evaporate water, which turns it into pure vapor, leaving all the salt and other junk behind. Then you just catch that pure vapor as it cools down and turns back into liquid. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, yeah, but to make it actually useful, we've got to speed this whole thing up a lot.
And how do we do that? Well, engineers have this really clever tool called a Fresnel lens. The easiest way to think about it is like a flat, super lightweight magnifying glass. Instead of a big, heavy, curved lens, it uses all these tiny grooves to capture and focus sunlight down into one single, intensely hot point. It lets you generate a ton of heat and a ton of steam really, really fast.
Okay, so in a perfect world, here's how it all works. The sunlight gets focused by the lens, boiling the salt water. Pure steam rises up, hits a cool surface, condenses, and then trickles down as perfectly fresh water. It's a beautiful, elegant process, on paper. But in the real world, oh, there's a villain in the story.
And that villain is salt. For all the incredible promise of this technology, one single nagging problem has been a nightmare for these devices for years. It's the Achilles heel of solar desalination.
And the crazy part is, the problem comes from the very thing that makes this whole process work in the first place. The water evaporates, but the salt doesn't. It just gets left behind. So for every single drop of fresh water you create, the water that's left over gets a little bit saltier. This buildup has a name. It's called fouling. The salt starts to crystallize and just clogs up the entire system. If you've ever seen that crusty white scale in an old tea kettle, it's exactly the same thing. You see, most of these devices use a sort of fabric-y wick to pull up the salt water. The problem is, those wicks get clogged up with salt crystals so fast it basically chokes the whole system.
And look, this isn't just some small nagging issue. This is the issue. I mean, listen to what the researchers from MIT and Shanghai Jiao Tong University say in their paper. They say the evaporator, the part that gets clogged, is the single biggest thing holding these devices back. So that's the big question, right? How do you fix a problem that seems like it's just a fundamental part of the physics?
Well, this is where it gets really cool. The researchers found their answer, but not where you'd expect. They basically stopped staring at the tiny problem inside their little box and zoomed all the way out to look at the ocean itself. And that led them to ask this just brilliant question. Hang on a second. If salt buildup is this huge problem on a tiny scale, how does the entire ocean, which is full of heat and salt, deal with it? Why doesn't the ocean clog up? The answer lies in this powerful, invisible force. The answer has a fancy name: thermohaline convection. This thing is basically the engine that drives the entire planet's ocean currents. It's this massive, invisible force created by tiny, tiny differences in water. Colder water is heavier, saltier water is heavier, and those differences in temperature, that's the thermo, and salt, that's the haline, create this constant, powerful circulation that mixes the entire ocean. So here's the breakthrough idea. What if you could take that massive planetary-scale engine and shrink it down to fit inside a tiny box? They literally decided to build a tiny ocean current in a box. I mean, this is a total paradigm shift. They just tossed out that old static wick system that was basically designed to clog, and instead they built something that's dynamic, that's constantly moving, something that cleans itself by pushing the salt away. They call their new invention the Thermohaline-Enhanced Solar Membrane Distiller. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know. TSMD is way easier.
But every part of that name is crucial to understanding how they cracked the code.
So how does it actually work? Okay, so forget the wick. Now you've got this thin little layer of salt water. And here's the clever bit. They just tilt the whole device slightly. At the top surface, where the sun is hitting, the water gets hotter and evaporates. Down at the bottom, the water gets saltier and therefore heavier. That difference in weight kicks off these tiny spinning whirlpools, vortices, that constantly circulate the water, washing the salt away from the surface and back into the main supply. It's amazing. The system literally constantly cleans itself.
So when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. The old way was slow. It was passive. It was basically doomed to fail, to clog up. But the new TSMD, it's active. It's fast. It's designed to be reliable. Okay, so it sounds great in theory. But what about the results? Did it actually work? Well, the results are kind of stunning.
All right, this is where it gets really impressive. Let's talk numbers. Because what this team achieved wasn't just a small step forward. It was a giant leap.
First up, reliability. You know, the big one. How long can it go without clogging? The team ran their device nonstop for 180 straight hours. That's 7.5 days, running continuously with zero intervention.
And get this, the water they used had a 20% salt concentration. That's almost 6 times saltier than the ocean. We're talking water that's basically one big salt crystal waiting to happen. And the whole time, no clogging, no performance drop, nothing. It just kept on chugging.
Okay, but what about efficiency? This is where your brain might start to hurt a little, in a good way. By stacking 10 of these units together, they hit a solar-to-water efficiency of 322%. Let me say that again, 322%. Now let me break that down for you, because it sounds impossible. By cleverly reusing the heat of condensation from one stage to the next, it means for every bit of solar energy they put in, they got so much pure water out that it was like getting back 3 times the energy. Absolutely a game changer.
Just look at this head-to-head comparison. This chart says it all, really. The old system, the wick one, it starts out fine, but look, after just 5 hours, its performance is already tanking. The salt is winning. And the TSMD, rock solid. Just cruising along, totally stable, because those little ocean currents are doing their job.
Okay, that's all great, but what does it mean in the real world? Like, what's the cost? That's the bottom line, right? Well, because this new TSMD is so efficient and reliable, it could slash the cost of making fresh water by a factor of 10. We're talking about a potential cost that makes solar-powered fresh water as cheap as the water coming out of your tap. For the first time, really.
So, to wrap it up, I think the researchers themselves say it best. They've demonstrated an approach with extreme resistance to salt buildup. They haven't just improved a device. They've opened up a whole new road for this technology, one that leads to practical, affordable, and sustainable fresh water.
And that just leaves you wondering, right? This whole thing, this huge leap forward, came from someone looking at a giant ocean current and thinking, hey, can we do that, but tiny? It makes you wonder, what other huge natural systems hold the keys to our biggest challenges? What other answers are just hiding there, right in plain sight?